Let's talk about math memes that went viral. Spoiler alert, I hate all of them. What's up everyone, thank you for spending a little bit of your time with me today, and if this is your first time here, please subscribe so you don't miss my next video. So today I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm not gonna go over math problem, I'm not gonna go over math theorem or math tip and tricks that you can use. So today I'm gonna go over some math memes or math problem that went viral on the internet. I'm gonna discuss math behind it a little bit, and I want to discuss what I think about those memes. Alright, so let's start off easy. Let's start off with this one. So we have a proof of 2 equal to 1. So of course what's going on here is that this is a wrong proof. Of course it's wrong, because if it's correct then we're gonna be living in a world that 2 equal to 1, and that's pretty awkward. And what went wrong is, at the beginning they assume that a equal to b, and at the last step they divide the equation by a minus b. But if a equal to b, then a minus b is 0, so you divide by 0, and you don't divide by 0 ever, never, ever. You never divide by 0, because when you divide by 0, something weird would happen, and that weird thing is 2 equal to 1. So this one, there's no controversy here. Everyone who look at this probably know that there's something wrong, because at the end of the day you have 2 equal to 1, and that's just straight up incorrect. But I still don't like this meme that much, because it supports the belief that math is nonsense. In high school or in college, you probably heard people say like, oh, math is nonsense, math is useless, you never use math in real life. And we need to revert that. We need to convince people that math is important. But this kind of thing actually support that math is being nonsense. With some sort of like math argument, you conclude that 2 equal to 1. And don't get me wrong, I think this meme can be used in a useful way. I think you can present this meme to students and say that, look, when you divide by something, you need to be careful, right? Because otherwise, you might get a wrong result if you divide by something that can be 0. But in general, people who share this over the internet, on Facebook, Twitter, share with the sense that like, oh, look, math is, see, nonsense. Alright, let's go down to the second one. Second one is this, so you have 0.9999 repeating equal to 1. So this one is a little deeper. So unlike the previous one that the conclusion is incorrect, this one equation is actually true. There are several proofs show that 0.999 actually equal to 1. And unlike the second one, this one actually triggers some controversy. Whenever this meme shares somewhere, there will be a group of people who jump in and say like, look, this equation is actually not true. 0.999 is actually a number that approaches 1, but it's not 1 itself. So let me just say this, there's no such thing as a number approach another number, right? Number 2 is just number 2. Number 2 doesn't move. 0.999 repeating is a number, it stays there, it doesn't move. So there's no such thing as 0.999 approaches 1. But what you need to understand is, what is the meaning of 0.9999 repeating? And here's the meaning. You start with 0.9, then you go to 0.99, then you go to 0.999. Those numbers are different from what we want. If we keep going, that sequence will approach one number. Just by definition, we call it 0.999 repeating. And that number turned out to be 1. So 0.99999 repeating is just 1 by definition of limit. So earlier I said there are a lot of proof that say that 0.999 equal to 1. People like multiply and like subtract and like conclude that equal to 1. That is not actual proof. The actual proof comes from the definition of the limit. So that equation is true, but there are still a lot of people that don't believe it. And what happened when this meme is posted somewhere? People who don't believe that this is true attack. People that believe it is true really attack. Like they insult their education and whatnot, and it's gonna go back and forth all the time. And this is really why I hate this meme too. Of course, the reason for the previous meme also applied. This promotes the idea of math being nonsense, right? You have 1, you have 0.99999. Math say they are the same. They are clearly different. Why do you say they are the same? Well, they are. But on top of that, not only promote the idea that math being nonsense, it also divide people. It also separates people into 2 groups, and they attack each other because they disagree on what is true and what is not true. They would insult each other educations, they would call each other stupid. And the sad part is, all of those happen just because what? Just because of a sequence that approach 1. There's nothing more than that. There's a sequence that approach 1, make people attack each other. And that's just straight up sad. Alright, so I got one more, and believe me, I saved the best one for the last. So there are many variations to this meme slash problem, but the one that I'm gonna use here is covered by My Your Decision. So if you haven't watched his video, then you can click on the link right here. But here's how it goes. So you have 6 divided by 5, open parentheses, 7 minus 5, and just ask you what is the answer. So if you like, you can pause the video here, give it some thought, calculate this in your head, or use pen and paper and try to figure out the answer. But if you're ready, here's what happened. So if you just do this casually without thinking too much, you might say that the answer is 6. But if you are super careful and kind of see what's going on here, then you might say that the answer is 24. So is it 6 or is it 24? So let me explain it a little further. So to do this one, the first step is, there's no question about it. You subtract 7 by 5 to get 2. So the expression becomes 6 divided by 5, open parentheses, 2, close parentheses. And the question here is, do we divide first or do we multiply first? On one hand, if you divide first, you get 12 times 2, which is 24. If you multiply first, you get 60 divided by 10, which is 6. So which one is the correct answer? Well, my answer is, the question is ambiguous. This is purely a bad question, and the answer is just up to your interpretation. So I know what you're thinking, and before you run down to the comment section and throw everything at me, saying that like, math is math is the same everywhere, it's not up to your interpretation. If you don't do this in the right way, then you don't understand arithmetic and blah blah blah. Let me just tell you, I am a math PhD, so I think at least I know a thing or two about mathematics. So trust me here. So the main argument that say that you're supposed to do division first is according to something called PEMDAS, which is just the way to tell you which operation to do first. And according to PEMDAS, division and multiplication take equal priority. Therefore, you should do it from left to right. And therefore, you should do division first, so you get 12 times 2, which is 24. But I don't know about you guys, but when I see a number next to the other number, I think of that number as just one number. Like 2x, I don't think of it as 2 times x. I think of it as the number called 2x. Same here, when I see 5 right next to 2, not just 5 times 2, I feel like that's just one number. So 60 divided by 5/2 is just 60 divided by 10, because that 5/2 is 10. So the answer is 6. So from listening to both sides of the argument, it seems like the one that do division first has a more legit reason, right? There's a specific rule that explains you to do division first rather than you use intuition to do multiplication first. But even with that in mind, I still think that the question is ambiguous, and let me convince you why. So let's say that I want you to write down the following formula. What would you do? And the formula is 10 over pi r squared. Alright, so think in your head, what would you write down? Or if you have pen and paper around, write that down, what would you write? So I would guess that you write something like this, 10 over pi r squared on the bottom. So why not this? Why not 10 over pi, then r squared to the right, right? Because pi r squared is nothing more than pi r squared. So when you do 10 over pi r squared is the same thing as 10 divided pi times r squared. So it's 10 over pi times r squared according to PEMDAS. And the same goes to the original meme, right? 60 divided by 5, 2. It could easily be interpreted as 60 divided by 5 times 2 together. So what do I think about this meme? So again, just like the 0.99 repeating equal to 1, this meme also divides people so badly, even worse than the last one. There are people who think that you should do division first. There are people who strongly believe that you should do the multiplication first, and they just throw words at each other. One person would say, you don't understand PEMDAS, then the other one would say, I do understand PEMDAS, but you don't see my point that this is like exception. And the other one will say, there's no exception, math is the same as math is everywhere. And it's going back and forth, and they call each other stupid, insult each other education and whatnot. And this also the promote the idea that math being nonsense, right? There's a variation of the meme that they show 2 calculators having the same expression, which is like similar to this, but give different answer. And they'll be like, look, math is total nonsense. Even 2 calculators cannot agree on what math is. So all in all, what do I think about these memes? I would say I hate them all. But more specifically, Maybe I don't hate the meme itself that much. I just hate the way people treat the meme. I hate the way that people take it too seriously, take it much bigger than what it actually is. At the end of the day, it's just a sequence that approaches one, not more, not less. The fact that it divides people so much, make people insult each other, and triggers such a strong emotion on people, that's what I hate so much about these kind of memes. Last words before I go, so what would I suggest you or people in general to do when you see these memes? Try to ignore it. Of course, you can try to reply and tell people what you think, but what you really should do is, if somebody reply to you and disagree with you and try to kind of like insult you, just ignore. Don't reply, don't let that get into you, because at the end of the day, what is it? It's just a sequence that approaches one. Okay, so that's enough rant for me today. Not Matt being covered, just me complaining about internet memes. Maybe I'm the one who take this too seriously. But what do you think? Do you agree with me? You disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section down below. And please be nice. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe so you not miss the next time I complain about random stuff. And that's all I want to talk about today. If you actually make it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I mean, I really appreciate it. But for today, thank you so much for watching. My name is Kuang and you're watching and choose K. Peace.